So I feel like I never did an intro video. So here we go. My name is Sabrina. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I attended undergrad at Temple University. I then went on to law school at Widener University, Delaware Law School in Wilmington, Delaware. I went to law school because I have an older sister who is an attorney. I watched her career trajectory. I saw her go from being a public defender to a mass tort attorney to in-house counsel to now assuming a bench here in Pennsylvania. And I kind of just wanted to, for myself, after watching her career trajectory, I knew I wanted to go to law school, but I kind of wanted to skip to the good part when it came to the career. And so that's what made me start to look at areas of law that would allow for good work-life balance, a good amount of money so that I can help pay back my student loans, and just a career that wasn't as I guess all encompassing like being a lawyer can be sometimes. So that's what made me interested in JD Advantage work. For anyone that doesn't know what JD Advantage is, when you graduate from law school, you end up with something called a Juris Doctorate. That means you are a doctor of law. When you have a JD, there are certain areas and fields that you can go into that other people who don't have a JD can also go into, but having a JD will make you competitive. Trustee. So I currently work as a trustee for a bank, a very large bank, and that just means that I am the trustee on a lot of family trusts specifically. I am the settlement officer for a trust and estate department of a bank. This is also an area where a lot of people who have JDs can look at, and also lawyers, by the way. A lot of lawyers that I know have also switched over to this work can come into this field, especially if you have a background in trust and estates, family law. I know someone that came from personal injury, commercial litigation. I mean, as long as you know the basics of trust and estates and you can learn quickly everything else, you'll be fine. You understand the basics of contract law, you'll be fine. And you should know at least a modicum of math, just a modicum. And I know lawyers don't like math, but for this field specifically, you need to know just a little bit. You don't need to know logarithms per se, but you have to know a little bit of math. And if you're good with Excel, this is also a really great area to go into. So as a corporate fiduciary, I administrate or look over family trust. All trusts have trustees. Now, I don't want to get into the kind of education of what trust and estates is, because that can go all day. That is an actual course in law school. But just know that in order for a trust to be a trust, they will have to have a trustee. So you can hire your old Uncle Eddie to be your trustee, or you can hire a corporate fiduciary. And the benefits of having a corporate fiduciary appointed to your trust is, number one, old Uncle Eddie can pass tomorrow. Number two, old Uncle Eddie could one day end up not good with money and can make some, let's say, questionable decisions when it comes to the money. Whereas a corporate fiduciary or trustee, we aren't personally invested. We are insured and we have deep pockets. So if one of our, corporate fiduciaries or a trust officer does something wrong with your account, you can sue. So, I mean, it's kind of covered. Also, lastly, the good thing is in the situation where old Uncle Eddie can pass away, if a corporate fiduciary passes away, unfortunately, if I pass away tomorrow, they will just appoint somebody new from the bank to your account. So continuity is really important because that person can look at my notes, unlike old Uncle Eddie, who probably doesn't even take notes on what he's doing. So if he passes away, the next person is going to be appointed the trustee. They don't even know what direction we're in. They don't know why the investments are the way that they are. They don't know, anything, what's been filed, what hasn't been filed, whether taxes have been paid, whether they haven't been paid, whether someone needs to be accountable for that. Now, you can have a person, like I said, old Uncle Eddie, somebody that's personal to you that can do it, or you can have a corporate fiduciary, or on some people's accounts, they have a mix of both. Sometimes we have something called a co-trustee, where old Uncle Eddie works alongside me. And, I can't make any decision by myself. Old Uncle Eddie and I kind of work as almost like a board, like a mini board, if I need to do something, I have to get his permission. He wants to do something, he has to get my permission, and we work together to get things done. But either way, if you are interested in trust and estates, if you've ever been in your trust and estates class and have been interested in the coursework, if you don't mind the rule against perpetuities, which we use daily at my job. If you don't mind counting out measuring lives and things of that nature, trying to distribute assets per capita or per stirpes, all types of, I don't know, all types of things are happening. But literally, this is a trust and estates class come to life, and you are responsible for administrating the trust. Now, as a trust officer, we have something called trust administrators, and trust administrators are literally paralegals who have a specialty specifically in trust. They have a background in trust and estates. They help us administrate the trust by doing all of the administrative tasks. Like if I need to, let's say, I don't know, pay taxes on an account, my administrator can actually cut the check and mail it out. And they also can let me know when something doesn't look right on an account. Maybe an account is overdrafted and we're trying to figure out why, or maybe, they're getting an alert on something from, I don't know, compliance, and they'll let me know. But these people work in tandem with trust officers, but they are not trust officers, because I've seen on some websites where they get trust officers and trust administrators mixed up. And they are not the same thing. The trust administrator is more like a paralegal who focuses or works in tandem with a trust officer. Instead of being kind of like a general knowledge paralegal, they focus only on trust and estate work. And a trust officer is a trustee. They're the actual person that's overseeing the account and the decisions made on that account. So here is my trajectory and how I ended up becoming a trustee. I left out of law school, didn't know what I wanted to do. I clerked for a judge in Philadelphia, Judge Sharon Williams-Lozier, who I always shout out. And then I went and clerked for a panel of judges at the Department of Labor in Washington, D.C. And there I was an appellate clerk who handled workers' compensation appeals for federal employees. And I didn't really like the work. The people were magnificent. The Department of Labor was wonderful. DC was wonderful. But I wasn't interested in workers' comp. I just wasn't. So I met an attorney. His name is Carlo Lombardi. I don't know where he is now. I think he's still at Wilmington Trust, but I met an attorney. His name is Carlo Lombardi. He introduced me to trust and estates, and he said, hey, listen, did you like trust and estates when you were in law school? Have you ever thought about banking and coming over and doing trust work? And I didn't know that, that there was whole departments of pretty much ex-attorneys who work in this field. So he's like, yeah, almost everyone in my department is, they have a legal background, and they just decided to come over for a better work-life balance. And so I ended up working for him as a trust administrator at Wilmington Trust. That was my first job in trust and estates. As a trust administrator, again, this is not a trust officer. I actually worked for a trust officer, Connor McLaughlin. Wonderful guy. Shout out to Connor. I think he's now at Mellon Bank. I think he'd BNY Mellon. But Connor was my trust officer. I was a trust administrator. Basically, Connor had his own book of clients, because when you're a trust officer, you have your own book of business. And he was responsible for handling all of the trust administration for those clients. So all of his clients were ultra high net worth. Ultra high net worth means individuals with a net worth of $5 million or more. And it was my responsibility to help him administrate those clients. So I was basically functioning as Connor's paralegal. And that's where I learned, just by watching him, by learning under him, how to administrate trust accounts. So I know that he did annual reviews. I saw how unit trust payments were calculated. I saw annual meetings. I drew up family trees for him, because sometimes these trusts can get really convoluted. We're talking about money that could have been passed down from the 1890s from someone, and now it's going to all of their, great grandchildren. And we have to kind of decipher. These family trees are now so large. And these families, a lot of the ones that I had when I was at Wilmington Trust, they had so much money that each of these families now, from, the last 100 years, they all have their own families. So we're like administrating a lot. You have to have a family tree to kind of show the breakdown of the money and how everybody ended up on that tree with X amount of money, and like where it's going and how it's being invested and how they're taking care of it, and try to make sure that that money doesn't leave that family. So I was making sure that they retained wealth. And so family trees were created. Taxes were paid. We always send out something called a K-1 to individuals to let them know what their projected taxes are for their trust accounts. And then you have, every state is different, but you have reporting that has to be done to the state regarding your trust. It can be annual, it can be triannual, it can be every 5 years, I think it is in Massachusetts. So there's just a lot to do when it comes to trust. And so I started off as a trust administrator at Wilmington Trust, and then I ended up moving up to a trust officer position where I am now. The trust administrator position in banking is at the assistant vice president level. The trust officer position in banking is at the vice president level. So now I am a vice president in trust and estates as a settlement trust officer at an investment bank. And again, my job now is mostly the settlement of trust, whereas before when I was at Wilmington Trust, I was responsible for the administration of accounts. They were like ongoing trust. Now I'm responsible for just settling them. So usually a trust is going to come to me when they have something called a triggering event. A triggering event can be a death. It can be a term of years. In other words, maybe your grandmother left you money, but she said you can't get it until you're 30 because maybe she thought that you were just kind of too immature to get the money right now. So when that person turns 30, the trust will terminate. And then it'll come to me and I'll say, you know what, this is the way it needs to be paid out, X, Y, and Z, you know. And I find out the way that it needs to be paid out by reading the governing document, the trust instrument, whatever it is that your grandmom left you. And we would call your grandmom the grantor. So whatever the grantor says, you know, I would like to, you know, pay my grandson, I don't know, let's say all of the principal of the account, but all income, maybe that's on hand, I want to give to the SPCA or something, I don't know, or, you know, all income on hand can come in, I don't know, you can give it to my estate, I don't know. Anyway, so they disperse their money in the way that they want, and I just make sure that happens. I make sure that they pay taxes before it leaves the banks. I make sure that they pay their fees. I make sure that the investments are in place for transfer, because some people, when they're inheriting money, or specifically a trust, a lot of the money, almost all usually of the money is invested. So some of them are like, listen, I don't want to take out the investments. I'm doing well on my own. My grandmother have left me, let's say 60 shares of Apple stock. I just want to keep them in Apple stock. I don't need the money right now. So for me, I would make sure to get the information from their brokerage account that's external. Maybe they are with U.S. Trust, and I will work with their trust officer over there to make sure that those securities move over. Sometimes they have securities or some type of asset that can't move because it's a proprietary asset or something that maybe their bank just doesn't take. I know I recently spoke to a money manager who told me he didn't want certain securities because his firm literally just does not follow that asset. And he said, we're going to have to sell that because we're not going to just start following these assets because this one client has them. So, but it's tricky when you're settling out estates because anytime you have to sell any securities, that's exposing people to capital gains tax. And a lot of these people have millions of dollars. So we're talking about taxes on $1 million, plus dollars. We're not talking about taxes on $30, even not even $30,000, which would be a lot. But we're talking about taxes on millions. So I really try to be careful with selling securities unless it's like absolutely necessary and we get permission in writing and things like that. And I let people know, there'll be a tax obligation at the end of this if you end up selling, a whole bunch of assets. So that's what the job is. If you are interested in banking, finance, law, contracts, trust and estates, family law, or if you're just a newsy person, I feel like my job is always like, if you like family dynamics and kind of helping people and kind of understanding family dynamics, then this would be the job for you. Because it really does afford a great work-life balance, a great salary. You do get, assistance from trust administrators like you would in a law firm. So you would still have like a paralegal to assist you. So you wouldn't be shouldering everything yourself. And you could go work at a bank instead of working at a law firm. And the environment, in my opinion, is totally different. And I just prefer the banking environment over the law firm environment. So that is my story. Thank you for watching my channel. I hope you found this information helpful. If you want to know anything else about working in trust and estates or being a trust officer, leave some comments below. I love hearing back from you guys. Thank you to everyone who has sent me messages telling me about your legal journeys, and we will all figure this out together. Take care.